I knew this was coming. There were warnings.
Hello everyone and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I am Kenneth Amaduri and today we are going to talk about the economy and we are going to discuss why things are just magically getting better. So earlier this week I talked about ISM manufacturing and how it had dropped. We're not seeing as many manufacturing jobs come into the economy. In fact, we're losing them. And today, we have an unemployment rate which actually went down. Things are getting better. However, the labor force participation rate, but to support why things are so great, the labor force participation rate did actually move higher. So in January, we saw 62.7% labor force participation rate. And in December, it was 62.6. So again, things are getting better. Wow, this is incredible. Now let's look at where those jobs actually came from. And by the way, the labor force participation rate essentially didn't move. It was essentially the same. But 151,000 jobs were added in January, and this was reported by Zero Hedge. And out of those 151,000 jobs, 70% of those jobs were minimum wage, waiters, and retail workers. So out of those 151,000, retail trade made up 58,000 jobs for January, and food service and drinking places, so waiters and bartenders, made up 47,000 of those jobs in January. So 70% of the jobs added in January were mostly minimum wage jobs. So people were not falling out of the workforce to a larger degree than we've seen in past months, but people were taking minimum wage jobs. So bravo economy, bravo Obama, and Fed Chairman Janet Yellen. You may now raise interest rates in March. Things are looking bright. Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the Baltic Dry Index is just completely a disaster. Now we are literally below 300 as I make this video. It is at 298. Again, it was a disaster in December when we were looking at it around 500, and we are 40% below where we were just 2 months ago. So it is a disaster out there. So let's talk about the national debt. Let's talk about the government illusion. You know, they massage the unemployment number. They massage precious metals prices. They massage inflation. Well, they do the same thing with debt, and which is another reason why they separate unfunded liabilities. Unfunded liabilities are out of control and are very much a bill that the U.S. government has to pay but can't, but they report the U.S. national debt and just say that the other liabilities are unfunded, which is actually a bad thing. The fact that they're not funded means that they're more unpayable than the money that is funded or the liabilities that are funded. So let's move on from that for a second. I want to talk about the deficit. You know, we hear that the deficit's around $500 billion, $500 billion. But let's look at the reality. In November 2015, that was 3 months ago, we saw the national debt at $18.7 trillion. We are $300 billion higher 3 months later. What does that mean? Well, that was 1 quarter of the year. So if you were to multiply that $300 billion by 4 quarters, well, that will give us $1.2 trillion. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen every quarter, but it's way more than what they're officially reporting. I mean, even going back a year from now, we were like the low 18 trillions, and now we're at 19 trillion. We're way beyond a $500 billion deficit year. And I'm pretty sure, I've said this before, that we are going to be very close, if not into the $20 trillion debt range by the end of the year, especially if we see things kind of get out of control and the government needing to stimulate markets. I am very, very positive that we will be close to $20 trillion in debt, if not past it. And it's for this reason that I advocate for precious metals. You can't predict what the effects and the consequences of these reckless actions will be and when this will ultimately come unraveled. And we're seeing that around the world. I mean, Venezuela is hyperinflating as we speak. And we are seeing countries around the world just thanking God that they have gold, or I should say the people that have gold in countries around the world are thanking God because they have something that is protecting them against their crashing currencies. Now, it's my speculation, or I know this for certain, that most people don't own precious metals, but the ones that do are very thankful. And it's this dollar strength illusion that is going to keep many Americans from buying precious metals, because their most recent experience with owning precious metals has been negative, and people base their future decisions on their most recent experiences. And sometimes you need to mentally overcome that, look at the bigger picture, understand what's coming, and act prudently. Now, when it comes to what Weimar Germany went through, you see those stories where people are literally burning their paper. It goes literally worthless. And Venezuela is seeing that right now at the moment. And they are hyperinflating their currency. Now, in 2013, they saw 41% inflation. In 2014, they saw 63% inflation. 2015, 275% inflation. And maybe by then you start thinking, well, now it's time to reverse. Well, in 2016, the forecast is 720% inflation. It is skyrocketing. Their stock exchange has been going up. It's been going up in inflated terms. So again, if you earned it in dollars, it wouldn't necessarily mean that you're making money. And they are devaluing their currency. In fact, it is so bad that they're flying in their currency. They're flying in their bolivars, and they're using 36 Boeing 747s to ship or to fly this money into the country. And in fact, some are saying that they are in negotiations to order 10 billion more bills. And 5 of these people said this would basically double the amount of cash that is in circulation. So this is the extreme effect of hyperinflation. We are seeing this happen around the world as countries fall, as countries see this. And it's very sad that governments around the world don't learn from prior mistakes. There isn't any sort of prudence or long-term thinking to say, you know what, this is the ultimate result of a fiat currency debt-based disaster. However, nobody wants to be the one to put in the effort to be prudent, because everyone is acting in their own short-term best interests. And I think that's where the problems lie with leadership and the democracy system that is currently in place. Everyone acts in their immediate short-term best interest. No one wants to be the bad guy, because they only have 8 years, you know, in the States at least, to look good, you know, or if you're the leader of the Federal Reserve. You only have that amount of time that you're in that position to look good, and if you can make the economy immediately react better, you will do so. And this is it. Venezuela. This is the effects of hyperinflation, and I am very positive that people in this country that own precious metals are going to be very happy. Look, a 720% forecast devaluation of their currency in 2016. Well, hey, that's, if they own precious metals, that's 7 times their money. Now, again, it's just retaining its purchasing power. It's putting the value of what's going to literally get devalued in a blink of an eye into something else that will hold its purchasing power. I know that's difficult for a lot of us to wrap our minds around because we've seen gold go from 1900 to 1100, but this is a reality for Venezuelans. And I'm going to stop here, but it is pretty crazy. Everyone, we're going to have some really exciting interviews. I've already interviewed Gary Christensen, a deviant investor, a very smart guy, a guy who is definitely going to encourage you. If you haven't bought precious metals, his analysis, what he sees coming in the markets will most definitely cause you to rethink your portfolio position and be prepared for what is coming in 2016 and 2017. We also interviewed Jim Rogers and also some other interviews as well, and you're going to enjoy them. Take that information, feel free to comment and to discuss these things with me, these thoughts, because I'm too in this with everyone else, and I'm preparing. I'm being prudent. I am doing what I can to be in a position to thrive if things drastically change, and I do believe that is happening.